Alright, so we got both assemblies done, fully inflated. Again, the only difference is the orientation of the hardware, the direction that we put our hardware in relation to the valve stems. Alright, so let's get our focus on to getting the hubs assembled. Let's get some bearings in there and get those set up with the brake shoes, and then we will install them into the rims. Here are the hubs. It's the front hub. That's the rear hub where the sprocket gets bolted on. Just a quick note that as shown in the details here in the exploded diagrams, you got a collar that goes in each one of these hubs. And just a quick note is that you got two of them. One is smaller than the other. The small one goes into the front hub, and the larger one belongs with the rear hub. And you're going to want to make sure that you put these in before you close off one side of the bearing. So I'll show you which direction to put this in, and then which bearings go in what order. Alright, so we'll do the front hub first. And like I said, we have our shorter collar that's going to go in there. So you're going to want to just put a little grease on it. Hurt anything to do that, just keep it lubricated. And then, like I said, you have to put it in from one direction first, and you're going to come on the front hub, you come in from the side where the brake shoe is. Drop that in there. Alright. I've got my bearings that are nice and frosty from the freezer. I'm going to go ahead and put a little lubricant, WD-40 in this case, on the casting race area. I'm going to drop my bearing in. And then I have a 7/8 inch socket that I'm going to use. You want to make sure that it fits down in the hole and doesn't hit the casting socket, that is, and that it actually catches the lip and on the outer edge of the bearing. You don't want to bang on the inner metal surface of the bearing. You want to press in on the outer edge. Almost in. So that's nice and pressed in now. And then now we can work on the other side of the bearing. Again, I'm going to put a little WD-40 in there. Try and get that in there as even as possible. So we got that in. And then we're going to have a clip that goes inside of here. And we're going to, a retaining clip, okay? Alright, so we got our retaining clip or snap ring. And you need reducing snap ring pliers, you know, close off the snap ring, and then it will expand and hold in its channel. Alright, and I guess the last thing we could do is our seal here. See, you don't. This is more aesthetics because this was not a sealed bearing originally, OEM, but this can go back in. So I'm going to use socket here. Give it. Alright, so we get the longer spacer. Again, this is going to come in from the brake shoe side of the hub. A little grease on it. Drop that in. Here's the old, this one has a seal on it too. This is the old one. I'm going to go find in the package. I know I bought another one, so just go ahead and we'll pretend I pound that in. Alright, got the hub, half the hubs reassembled. So I'm gonna bolt these on, and then we'll worry about the brake shoes and brake cover being assembled next. Let's get these bolted on. Got the hardware of the washers, and we'll start with the front hub here. So front hub, based on your diagram, is going to be inserted from the side of the tire. Again, make sure you're using the right bolt. Flange head has no valve stem on it, so we're going to insert from this end and put our bolts and washers in. So rear hub, rear rim, hub comes in with the bolt, flange, and the valve stem. Just a quick note, since I did tell you guys to use WD-40 or whatever on when you're pushing in your bearings, just want to be careful just on the shoe area that none of that oil is in that area, because that will cause probably some slipping on the shoe. So I'm just going to use some rubbing alcohol that will break down the oils and remove that. Be a good idea to go over that, or just be careful with the lubricant on your bearing that it doesn't get into the area of the shoe. So we'll do some assembly here. The castings on these brake covers are exactly the same. There's no differentiation between them. Same with these cams for the shoe and arm, brake arm. I do note that there's an R on one of the brake arms, and there is a R on the outside edge of the cam, so I'm going to keep those together, but I'm going to first and foremost we'll just put some grease on the rubbing components that are going to rub between the cam and the hole that this gets inserted to. So we'll just put some grease on that, and I'll go ahead and put those in. Wipe away any excess. Where's my towel? Any excess grease there. Go ahead and do that for both hubs. These sometimes get seized up over the years from lack of maintenance on them, so it's good to put a little bit of grease back in there. I'm going to get a close-up and kind of show you there is a little detent or a little dot on the cam, and we're going to orient them the right way when you put the shoe on. So here's our shoe, and this is going to show the two sides of the shoe. This one mounts on this round stud, and then the flat edge is going to mount on the cam because that's a flat machine part. So as you can see, either the cam itself when it's installed can either be rotated this way or 180 out the other way. And what we want to take note on is when we install this, that this is turned in the right direction, because on the outside, I'm going to use this to point to it, there is a little machined dot right there. You want that dot to face close to the axle. You don't want it facing out this way. You want it in this way. And the reason that is that when you put your arm on, this keeps it in alignment. You want your dot on your arm, brake arm, to match where your dot is on your cam. Like so. Alright. That's going to be the same thing on the front brake. So you have your dot, and then I'll show you how to make sure that's in the right spot on the front cover. But we're working on the back one right now. So back one gets the dot closest to the axle. Alright, so let's get our shoe on now that the orientation is correct here. Just make sure that doesn't turn on you, which is highly unlikely. And then what I do is, your springs are already loaded on your shoe. Go ahead and bend it and push in one side. Just make sure this is on camera here. Push this on one side of your studs, and then just rotate it over, kind of manhandle it over. Once it seats in, it will snap in, and you're good to go. All right. So we'll put the brake arm on. Sometimes these splines are just messed up, or even on the cam itself, and just makes your life miserable. You know, if that's the case, and you're not replacing these parts. Sometimes it's just easier to just take a little flathead screwdriver and wedge this open a little more. That way you get a little more opening on this round portion with the teeth, and it will slide down better. We will remember to orient your dot to dot here on your arm. And I also have the R to the R. There really isn't any difference between this brake arm and this cam compared to the other ones. I'm just putting the R with the R. So we're going to go ahead and put our return spring on. If you don't have one of these, buy it. Put your spring on first. And then we're going to go ahead and push down and get these dots aligned to each other. That's going to help you orientate your arm in the right position. I got some new hardware. It's an M6 bolt. And then they still sell these special nuts here that help get locked in. I'm just going to go ahead and hand tighten this one for now. then actually any kind of tool you have will probably suffice in this thing, but I'll use a flathead. Just give it a push, get it past that arm. And over. And then you got your spring in place. And when it gets pulled forward, that spring helps push it back. Alright, so that's the back. Brake cover and shoe. Wow, this came up. I'll tighten this down. But you guys get the point here. So I went ahead and just assembled the front. Same thing that you did with the back. And the little dot on the cam and brake arm also are close to the axle. The other thing on the front, you don't have that spring on there, so that's not necessary, just on the rear. Alright, want to get you 100% ready to put these wheels on, so we'll just talk about putting your sprocket on. Get this recessed circle here on your sprocket, and the other side is unmilled. So we're going to go ahead and put the recessed part down on that sprocket there. And then you have your retaining clip, safety clip that goes on next. And you can take your M8 bolts. Actually, what I'll say is I am going to do it, but I'll just continue with this video. I'm going to get some Loctite. I'll put a blue Loctite on each one of these bolts here, and then I'll fasten them down. The other thing is you have a spacer, and this right spacer, the correct spacer for the rear is the one that looks like a top hat, has this lip on it. So that's what's going to go right there. And then you have the larger spacer that is tubular, doesn't have the lip on it. That's going to be for your front wheel. Okay, well I think that will conclude the rim assembly. I think it was very thorough, so hopefully I didn't bore you, but I just wanted to kind of cover every aspect of maybe something you'll encounter and show you kind of the correct way to assemble these so that you're following how Honda assembled them originally. Again, as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video.